Alabama, officials are responding to a fight that happened Monday in downtown Montgomery and has captured national attention. This video was posted by @NotCaptainAmerica on Twitter. This did happen on Saturday, actually. A tour boat called the Harriet was idling for 45 minutes as a private boat was parked in their spot, refusing to move. Now, the initial fight is between the co-captain of the Harriet and the private boat owner. Several of the passengers and bystanders then join in. Chief Darrell Albert with the Montgomery Police held a press conference earlier today.
13 individuals were detained and brought to police headquarters for questioning and interviews. Those interviews lasted several hours. At that time, all parties involved were released pending further investigation, but were all given instructions on how to secure warrants on the combatants. We have since consulted with and are continuing to work with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, our state police agency, the Montgomery's DA's office, and the local office of the FBI. This investigation is ongoing and more charges are likely. We encourage the public to continue to send us additional videos or evidence relating to this case. Those can be sent to starcenter@montgomeryal.gov or at our secret witness 334-625-4000. The victims in this case, the co-captain, Mr. Damian Pickett, black male, and a 16-year-old white male juvenile who was struck by the owners and operators of the private boat. The suspects thus far have been identified as Richard Roberts, white male, 48 years old, with 2 outstanding warrants for assault, 3rd degree. Alan Todd, white male, 23 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. And Zachary Shipman, white male, 25 years old, 1 warrant for assault, 3rd degree. We have instructed those individuals to turn themselves into law enforcement, and as at this time, 1 is secured and in custody. The other 2 are set to turn themselves in.
At one point during the fight, a man who police identify as 42-year-old Reggie Gray was caught on camera hitting a woman over the head with a folding chair. Now, police are asking him to please contact police as well. All right. Still here to discuss. Former criminal defense attorney Kirk Nurmi, family law attorney Randy Kessler. Randy, I'll start with you. There's a lot to break down in this video, but I want to just start off by getting your thoughts on it. In my view, you know, a lot of people looked at the racial element of this, and quite frankly, I think there's a difference between an incident that breaks down along racial lines versus a racial incident. One of the people at the scene said that these guys on the boat initially were confrontational, and it didn't seem to her that it would have mattered who confronted them. There was going to be a fight. So anyway, your thoughts quickly.
I think you're right, and it's sad to say that I hope that would be the case. I would hope that these guys were idiots for beating up the person no matter what his color, right? They didn't want to move their boat. They wanted to stay parked, and they didn't like anybody interfering with their plans. And they were going to have at whoever was interfering with their plans. The fact that the person happened to be African-American, I hope, is a byproduct. I hope that they were just dumb, violent people instead of racist, violent people. But who knows? And will it eventually become a hate crime? Who knows how far this is going to go? There's a lot of investigation, a lot of background checking, a lot of investigation. We have not yet seen even the beginning of this.
Yeah, good point, Randy. We still don't know the specifics, Kirk. There was a suggestion that, of course, there was a lot of alcohol involved. It seemed that way to me just by looking at the video. The way the guys on the boat were moving suggested maybe it had been a long day on the water. They were red from the sun, and you know when you're on a boat, there might be some drinking. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts generally on what you saw in that video.
Yeah, I agree with Randy. I mean, the devil is in the details, right? And we heard the police officer talk about, you know, the amount of interviews, the extensive amount of interviews that they are doing in this case, and still hoping to have more cell phone footage, which is obviously a great aid to law enforcement, all these interviews. So I think as time unfolds, we're going to see was this a hate crime? What motivated all this? Because we don't hear a lot of interaction between the individuals in the video we just heard. So, this has rightly captured the nation. Hopefully that it'll be resolved and justice will be served for these victims. Obviously, this kind of beating is unacceptable.
Yeah, no doubt. And there were a lot of beatings. This thing broke down along 3 different sections as far as I'm concerned. Now, once this particular beating took place, there were a number of people on the boat who had to wait till the boat docked to get down. When they come down, pretty much that beating had been broken up and they confront the people on the boat. Randy, should those people who came off the boat, worked on the boat, wanted to help out the guy who took the initial beating, but that beating was over, they come and confront the people on the boat, start a fight, should they possibly be facing charges as well? They're no longer, in my mind, in defense of someone at that point.
Yeah, I think they should be charged, right? They broke the law. Clearly, they broke the law. Will they get convicted? Will a jury be sympathetic and understand why? But this is not self-defense. This is not heat of the moment. This is, I can't do anything until I get off the boat, but as soon as I get off the boat, I'm going to go out and do what I need to do. But they broke the law, and I think they committed a crime based on the little stuff we've seen, right? We don't know. But I think, given what we've seen, this should be charged. Is it a convictable charge? Who knows? Is it a plea? Probably.
You know what's interesting, Kirk, as they approach the boat, and this is when that whole second melee, larger melee starts, the actual people on the boat throw the first punch. So given that, could that be a defense for them saying, look, we were confronting them, we wanted to know what was going on, but they threw the first punch?
Certainly. I mean, and that goes to motivation and what was said and what witnesses can hear, because, Randy's right. These are probably, a lot of these minor charges will probably be pled down, but who was the aggressor, who was defending themselves versus who experienced criminal culpability, who was the aggressor, is really going to break down in terms of witness testimony, what people said, because that's how we're going to define intent.
Yeah, no doubt. And like the captain said, we don't want to normalize violence in that way. And I think he means from the beginning to the end. So really a lot of parsing out to do here in terms of charges. All right, gentlemen, stand by. We've got much more ahead coming up here on Court TV Live. A woman in Arizona is behind bars charged with trying to poison her husband with bleach. And we have just learned rapper Tory Lanez has been sentenced after he shot hip-hop star Megan Thee Stallion. Right here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
These are everyday people caught up in a plan to commit murder. But just who is the puppet? And who's pulling the strings?
Accomplice to Murder with Vanny Politan. Tonight, 7, 6 Central. Only on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, we compare letters in the JonBenet Ramsey case. A convicted pedophile has allegedly confessed to the murder in letters to a former classmate.
Closing Arguments. Tonight at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Topping our other legal news from across the nation, in California, we have just learned the sentence for rapper Tory Lanez. He will spend 10 years in prison after being convicted of shooting and injuring hip-hop star Megan Thee Stallion. Prosecutors had asked for a 13-year prison sentence for Lanez, whose real name is Daystar Peterson. His attorneys argued he should only get probation and then enter into a substance abuse program. Well, the prosecution wrote in a sentencing memorandum that, along with the crimes for which he was convicted, Lanez has re-traumatized Megan with social media posts about the case that emboldened many of his more than 2 million followers to actually attack her. And in Arizona, police have charged a woman with attempted first-degree murder for allegedly trying to poison her husband with bleach. According to court documents, Melody Feliciano Johnson attempted to pour bleach into her husband's coffee. Roby Johnson, who was in the Air Force, said he first noticed his coffee started tasting bad while he was stationed in Germany. He bought chemical testing strips to test the coffee. Well, he didn't go to police until he returned to the U.S. He said he set up cameras that showed Melody pouring bleach into a container and then pouring the bleach inside his coffee maker. Melody is in jail on a $250,000 bond. The court hearing is scheduled for September. Back to California, where a former college student is accused of stabbing 2 people to death and wounding a 3rd person. Yesterday, a judge found Carlos Dominguez is not mentally fit to stand trial for that crime. Well, last week, 3 medical experts testified that Dominguez is schizophrenic. He was a third-year student at the University of California, Davis until April of this year when he was expelled. Police say he stabbed 3 people shortly after that. The district attorney says Dominguez will be sent to a state hospital, and once his competency is restored, the criminal trial will resume. All right, still with me, former criminal defense attorney Kirk Nermany and trial and family law attorney Randy Kessler. All right, Tory Lanez gets 10 years. I was a bit surprised. I thought the judge might fall a little bit lower than that, but there were a number of aggravating factors found by the jury, Randy. So at the end of the day, your thoughts on 10 years for Tory Lanez?
It's a lot of time, right? You know,
Yeah.
we weren't there. The judge has a sense. And the thing you can't really replace is being in the courtroom, the sense of, you know, the judge is seeing how he acts, how he flinches, his demeanor, and the judge just has a gut feeling. And, you know, that's what they do for a living, morning, noon, and night. It's hard to second guess. We can be outsiders all day long, and maybe it should have been a little bit less. Prosecution, recommended 13 years, so the judge didn't go with the max. Hard to second guess the judge. I do it too much, probably.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
no
do it
doubt.
right now.
Yeah, he sat through the whole thing. And again, we weren't there for all of it. But again, there were a number of aggravating factors found by the jury, so that may account for it. Prosecutors only wanted 13 out of a possible 22 years. And my understanding was he's a Canadian citizen and deportation was on the table. Not sure if that came about. It wasn't reported, so I'm thinking that wasn't an issue. But Kirk, your thoughts on the sentence here?
Well, look, we have to keep in mind here, while mental health and drug substance abuse could have played a factor in this, and the defense certainly made that case, we got to face facts here. There was a gun involved. Somebody was shot. This isn't something that could be taken lightly with a few years of probation, as Mr. Lorenz was thinking. So I believe, you know, I wouldn't second guess the judge as well. I mean, I think 10 years is sadly appropriate in this situation.
Yeah, and the defense tried to argue, Randy, that there was an issue with alcohol abuse, also traumatization in his youth, and that's one of the reasons it happened. They were asking for that probation, then go into a program and get him some help, but it didn't work.
Right. No, it didn't work, and good that it didn't work. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of people with that defense, because that is certainly not unique, right? That if drinking and problems like that in your youth is a defense, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, and I think some of the stuff that he did after the social media postings and things of that nature, I think that certainly didn't help him at all. All right, gentlemen, stand by. We do have a lot more coming up, folks. Stick around. Up next, the viral video of the riverboat brawl in Montgomery, Alabama has literally everyone talking. I can't tell you how many calls I got about that last night. We're going to share your comments coming up in our Talk Back segment. I can't wait. Keep it here on Court TV.
These are everyday people caught up in a plan to commit murder. But just who is the puppet and who's pulling the strings?
Accomplice to Murder with Fanny Politan, coming up next, only on Court TV.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, we compare letters in the JonBenet Ramsey case. A convicted pedophile has allegedly confessed to the murder in letters to a former classmate.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
It is time now for today's Talkback segment. Each day we post a question on Court TV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions, respond right here on the show. Now, a brawl in Alabama caught national attention and 13 people were detained. Arrests haven't officially been made, and today officials announced more charges are still pending. So we asked you, what was your reaction to the videos circulating online? Here to discuss, former criminal defense attorney Kirk Nermany, trial and family law attorney Randy Kessler as well. All right, gentlemen, our first comment comes from a viewer on Twitter. They say, if they had just moved their boat, there wouldn't have been a problem. And I think at the end of the day, Kirk, that when police look at this thing and they decide to put up whatever charges they're going to put on this thing, that's the key for me. Whatever happens after that, there's certainly people who have to be culpable for their actions. But the ones who started it, to me, are the ones that the police have to focus on and perhaps be the most aggressive in charging.
You're right. I think this is where this whole incident began. This whole incident would have been preventable had they just simply done the decent and proper thing and moved the boat. And that's amazing how one little incident like that, one little act of incivility can lead to something like this. And it just shows how if we just were a little kinder to each other, we could avoid a lot of this.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, it just feels like it was alcohol fueled, because that one little sort of defiance turns into a very, very bad beatdown. I don't understand why they attacked the guy the way they did for telling them to move. Our next comment comes from Beach Bum. Beach Bum says, one better be for the man seen hitting the woman that was on the dock with the chair. Those that started it should have just moved their boat. Okay, so we established that. But I agree. See, that's my point. The person that I saw, and I saw the video of him hitting people with a chair. He was hitting one guy. Then he just turned around and hit a woman who was sitting on the ground. I don't know what she had done before that or whatever. But we just cannot have that, Randy. And, you know, that chair possibly could be a deadly weapon of some sort.
Right. It's sort of like you said earlier, Michael. This is not one incident. We're calling it the boat brawl, but the truth is there was the not moving the boat. There was the attacking the security guard. Then when the boat landed and those people came off and attacked, there was the chair. There are a lot of different crimes here. They may not be prosecuted together. You may have 4 or 5 different prosecutions. And if you look at them individually, man, it's bad because everyone's right. Everyone keeps saying it. If they just moved their boat, then all these tensions wouldn't have risen. And I think if they'd removed the alcohol, that might have helped too.
Yeah, police are going to spend a lot of time with those videos figuring out how to handle this one. Our next comment comes from Frank. Frank says, I think each person arrested should be prosecuted as participants of a hate crime. My prayers for the elimination of racism everywhere, and it will continue indefinitely. Again, I don't think this was a racist incident, as I said, and I hope you understand what I mean, that I think the fight broke down on racial lines, but I don't think it was a racist incident. Now, we still have to find out, Kirk, when we talk about hate crimes, et cetera, a lot of that's going to depend on what people say or what people said and what witnesses say was said to each other.
Well, first of all, yeah, you know, I share Frank's prayer in terms of ending the racism. And so we don't even have to consider that sort of thing. But I think you're right, Michael. It goes down to what was said, what was articulated, what kind of things, what was motivating those people? Was it just not moving the boat or was there more? And so when all these interviews take place, I think that picture is going to come into place and then we'll be able to determine whether this was simply a brawl that broke out on racial lines or if it was racially motivated.
All right, our next comment comes from Jaded One. The people who started it need to answer for it. They tried jumping a security guard and others came to his aid like people should. And again, Randy, it still begs the question. There was a guy who came down when the gentleman, the co-captain, was being beat, and he tried to break things up. That, to me, is someone coming to the aid of someone else. He really didn't start throwing punches. But then there were a bunch of other people, and I want to ask this question because this guy has gotten a lot of attention. There was a guy who was on the other side of the water, jumped in the water, swam across the water to get involved in the fight, and he's seen throwing various punches. Under those circumstances, how do you think the law or the prosecutors should handle that?
Sort of like you discussed earlier, and that it's going to be the definition of what is coming to the aid, right? If the fighting had stopped and this person says, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to make sure that person pays for what they did and I'm going to exact some revenge or some vengeance, that's a crime. If they're going over there to intervene and help a victim, it's a defense, and certainly it's not chargeable. That's you know, the timing and the videos are going to be very, very important.
Yeah, and Kirk, that creates a little bit of a problem because, again, the initial victim, that he had gotten up and he had sort of went along on the dock there. By the time everybody was able to get off the boat and begin sort of tussling with these guys. So the question of coming to his aid, you know, how long do you think prosecutors are going to give them a pass when the guy was already up from the floor, that beating had stopped, he had moved away? They almost seemed like they were bent on revenge for what they saw.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that moment in time, and it's hard to say, I don't think there's going to be an exact amount of seconds that's determinative of this. The prosecutor's going to have to look at it, maybe get some witnesses' account of what was said, and then say, okay, this was an act of vengeance as opposed to self-defense. And that's really going to be the dividing line, Michael.
Yeah, you know, this thing is just, it's so unfortunate. And again, I want to echo the idea that let's end racism, but I don't think this was necessarily a racist event. Just guys, alcohol fueled on the water, and let's get control of ourselves. All right, Randy Kessler, Kirk Nermy, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Always a pleasure, guys. Folks, coming up next, we're going to review the 3 things we've learned today in all the cases we're covering here on Court TV. Welcome back. Here are 3 things that we've learned on this busy Tuesday. First, opening statements could begin tomorrow in the widower murder retrial in Nevada. Thomas Randolph is being tried again after his previous conviction in the murders of his wife and the hitman that he allegedly hired to kill her was overturned. During a hearing today to discuss admitting alleged prior bad acts, The judge ruled that the testimony of one man who claimed Randolph tried to hire him to kill his wife would not be allowed. Second, in the Murder in Paradise plot, suspect Lindsay Shiver, who is accused of plotting to kill her husband, has been sent back to a Bahamian prison. Our Court TV cameras caught this video of Shiver leaving court today. She and 2 others, including her alleged lover, are charged in the case. Shiver is expected to be back in court tomorrow. And third, a judge has sentenced rapper Tory Lanez to 10 years in prison for shooting hip-hop star Megan Thee Stallion. Prosecutors had asked for a 13-year prison sentence for Lanez. Well, his attorneys argued he should only get probation and entered into a substance abuse program. All right, I'm Michael Ayala. It's been a pleasure being with you tonight. Thank you so much for being with me. Up next on Accomplice to Murder, Florida versus Leppert. Toby Lowry was 22, and he says his 15-year-old girlfriend, Morgan Leppert, manipulated him into murdering an allegedly disabled man so they could run away together. But was the so-called blue-eyed devil really the mastermind behind this brutal crime? Then ahead at 8 p.m. Eastern, tune into Closing Arguments. Vinnie Politan has an exclusive interview with Michael Vale. He received chilling letters from Gary Oliva, who confessed in a letter to killing JonBenet Ramsey. Plus, they're going to break down the handwriting in those letters to see if it matches the ransom note left at the crime scene.